Welcome everyone to a brand spanking new episode of Flipside Focus. I'm your host, the random dude Josh. Yeah, Flipside Focus is back. But here's the cool part. My co-host for this episode, from across the pond, no, not that direction. We're going the other direction. We've got Johnny the Machine Hughes. Johnny, how are you, friend?
I am very excited to be here. I am looking forward to this so much.
Awesome. I'm excited for you to be on the show. I mean, hell, you review how many indie books on Comic Crusaders? A lot?
All of them?
All of them.
No, that's facetious. I do see a fair few. I see more indie books than I do DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm honored that you're on the show, and unfortunately, Dodgy is not on the show with us, but that's because he is working on a comic book of his own. So he is definitely busy with that. I'm excited for when I have a chance to get my hands on that one to see what he's cooked up. So it'll be awesome.
I wonder if he'll let me review it. I'm a tad
I don't know. We'll have to find out. So, for those of you who have never listened to Flipside Focus, we talk about nothing but indie comics. There's no big two comics here. So, we're just going to jump right into In Focus, where we review current books that are out that you probably should be reading because they're indie books. So, duh. So, we'll kick this one off. The first book we're going to talk about, this is one of Comixology's originals called Edgewood, written by Chuck Austin, art by Patrick Oliff. If I butchered your name, I'm sorry. That's just part of the show. Colors by Lee Luridge. Luffridge. Thank you. Letters by Jody Wynn. Johnny, this is your pick. So since you're new on the show, go ahead and kick this one off.
Oh, so basically saying jump in and get my suit wet. Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
No pop-ups or anything like that. Just go straight for it, eh?
Oh, yep, okay. I pushed you in the deep end. Just boom.
All right, so this book, it's an interesting little sci-fi book. Well, I say sci-fi, it's like sci-fi western. So basically the way it works is there's this planet called Pala or Pala, depending on your accent. Next door to that is a rift gate leading to countless other universes. All right, so kind of like a bit of a Deep Space Nine rift, maybe. All right, but this is a frontier world, so you get a little bit of that Firefly kind of hodgepodge world, aliens and humans living out together and stuff. If it wasn't for this rift gate, you know what? It's a mud ball. It makes Tatooine look like a pleasure planet. Right? So, you know what I'm saying? It's not where you go to go on holiday. So, the book kind of follows the magistrate of said city in Pala and his kind of gang that he hangs out with, his deputy, and some of the other characters that kind of flow through that world. There's this whole thing. It's a desert world. It's sand that kind of blows through, you know, like that scene in Mission Impossible, whatever it is, whether in Dubai and it's chasing them down. It's the sand's like that sort of thing. But in the sand lurks monsters. So you've got lots of different things going on in this book. Honestly, I'm going to get grief for this, but I don't like Firefly. Not in the slightest. I've never liked Firefly.
Thank God for that. I thought I was the only one.
No, it's like, what? Yeah, this book, I don't know. I don't know whether it's the mix of the Western element, the sci-fi element, the way that the species and the humans live together reminds me a little bit of Carnival Row and that kind of like toleration of each other type of thing. Mm-hmm. Chuck Austin, I think, does a great job letting the reader live in the world. And this is really important, I think, for indie books. Too many times because it's a new book, it's a new world, and it doesn't have all the hang-ups of anything else that's gone before. I think so many times writers have to tell you everything that's going on, and all you get is pages and pages and pages of exposition. And you're like, dude, I can't cope anymore. I just stop, just get on with the story. Austen's not like that. Austen just tells it like it is. It's up to you to work the bits out, and he does give you little snippets to get in there, so that's good.
Yeah.
I remember Patrick Olive from his work on Marvel, on Nomad, way back when, and I've always liked his work. Here, I think the transitions, there's some stuff going on in the past, there's stuff happening in the present. I think the transitions work well. I think the art's really rugged, which kind of fits the world that they're living in. I think Lee Lothridge does a great job on the colours. It feels like a proper world, not something that's just kind of thrown together. Which again is another thing that indie books need to get better at. Sometimes is the colouring. I think sometimes there needs to be better texture to the world. So I think Lee Lothridge has done a great job there. The letters are probably a little bit too spaced out for me. They don't fill the word bubble. It's nothing bad. It's just I just noticed it because I see so many books. But you know what? Comixology, I think that they're doing some really good original books out there. You've got things like The Citizen, Virtually Yours, and they don't fit one particular genre. They do like a whole range of different books. I think Comixology are kind of getting their name out there through being the place where people buy comics, and now they're kind of getting in on the act themselves. And I think that's a good thing. Definitely. Yeah. I really enjoyed this book. I was really intrigued, and I definitely want to be looking at seeing the next issue.
Yeah. No, I agree. As I was reading through it, I like the fact that they set the world just in that first paragraph where title, here's your brief history, everything you need to know, who's contributed to the book, and then boom, into the story they go. To be honest, I love the artwork. I thought it was, like you said, it was gritty, but it matches the world. I thought the writing was spot on. Thoroughly enjoyed the story. I'm going to be reading more. This is definitely one that has caught my attention in that respect. The lettering, I was kind of the same with you, where I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse, especially from the big two. But the spacing of it was just a little off. But I think that's honestly because we've got, because you and I review so many books and read so much that we have a particular style of lettering that we like. And I think at times we forget that not everyone's going to like that style.
That's a show. I think what we all kind of, we take lettering for granted, and I know Taylor Esposito is going to kill me for saying that, but we take it for granted, and we don't automatically notice when something is really, really good. We only notice it when it's just a little bit off, which is a sucky way to look at it, because letterers do a fantastic job. They've got small space to work in. They've got to be mindful of where the bubbles go and impact the art, impact the camera angle, the flow of the panel, all that sort of stuff. And on top of that, they're the last person to get the book.
Yeah.
You don't put the letters on first, then draw around them, unless unless maybe that's why Rob Liefeld books are so slow. Maybe that's how he does it. I don't know.
But all in all, fantastic book. And I definitely I appreciate the effort that goes into this, and I applaud Comixology for picking this one up, because it has a lot of potential, and I want more. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's like, I'm intrigued in what happened to him in the past. Because you see him in the present with his big beard and stuff, and then in the past he had a girlfriend and she was pregnant, and and you kind of think, well, obviously something bad's happened down the line, but you want to know. You want to know. So.
But honestly, that's great writing to be like, okay, I want more. I want to know what happened in the past so I can put the pieces together now. So it keeps that interest going. And I feel that's something that indie books in general are able to do a lot better than the big two.
Well, I think they have to, don't they?
Because you got to put it out there to get people to end up reading your book, because there's so many different titles, so many different styles of books that you really do have to take a very wide approach to get people to come take a look at your book.
And I think it shows, because with indie books, for a lot of indie books, I'm not going to say them all because it doesn't cover them all, but for a lot of indie books, they don't have the history and they're not the icons that other characters are. So sometimes big two books can be a little bit lazy because everybody knows what happened to this character's parents or this character's parents, or how this character got the powers, or or why that guy's the bad guy. We know that that's sort of like etched in our psyche because these characters have been around for God knows how long. Yeah. Indie writers have to sort of get you hooked, and get you buying the book from page 1, panel 1. And I think this book does that.
It does. I mean, I looked at the cover when you had actually picked this. I was like, I don't know. I was, for lack of better words, I was judging a book by its cover. And then I started reading it, and I'm like, oh, my bad.
Yes, we should never pick books blind. That's all I'm saying.
Because we never do that. We've never done that.
Yeah, we never get stung with, I'll pick this and it's 168 pages. No, that never happens to us. We're professional.
No, of course not. Stay tuned to the next episode for the conclusion of that joke. Well, let's move from Edgeworld to the current world we live in. You like that? I enjoyed that.
I am like, wow. Talk about professional. There you go.
Well, it is. Since you're the machine of segues, I had to raise my segue game.
Dude, I just make it up on the fly.
Well, I just made that one up on the fly too. So
very, very well done, sir. Very well done.
Well, I appreciate that. So the next book we're talking about is Tales from the Pandemic. This book is actually, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 short stories. However, we've got a myriad of writers on this. We've got Mario Candelaria, Andy Michael, J. Paul Sheik, Randy, man, these names.
I thought I was these.
Oh man, I don't know how you do it, man.
Randy Hadelman,
Hadelman, Joe Hunter, Dan Buxa, Sachi. That last name, I really don't want to butcher it, so I'm not even going to try. And then Adam Ferris.
That's it. Challenge accepted. Now let's have that's where we are. The last
like Derry Weir. It's on the story of Stride. Yeah.
Sachi Edelweira.
Yeah. That probably better than what I would have done, but hey ho.
Adam Ferris, that one.
Yeah. So, Tales from the Pandemic are short stories. Obviously, we're living in a very different world right now. And this book, I seriously believe, takes maybe the core aspects of what has transpired over the last 6 months and made it into a short story. So the different short stories within this book, we've got Paper House, Lips, Flight 616, Happy Hour, Litterbug, Stride, and then Are You Still Watching? As I was reading through these, Paper House was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Where it brought back the fear of when everything shut down.
We're going through that right now. We're talking about the local area I live in has it's on a government watch list because our cases are going up, and my wife, the Dr. Pepper loving Tracy Hughes, stepped out to get some groceries today, and people with like trolleys full of stuff, man, and like the shop assistants were like, if it's not going to be like last time, the shops are still going to be open. You don't need to take all this. You're buying too much stuff for just one household, you know. So man, it's still happening. Still happening.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Paper House is really taking that fear and illustrating it, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny as hell because, I mean, you've got a guy who's afraid to even step outside of his house in fear that he's going to get infected, and the conversation that he has with the guy, I don't know if it's a friend of his or whatnot, but it was just, you know, everyone's on edge, and he gets a roll of toilet paper to the face. And I mean, I would have done a can of chili instead, but that's just me.
That's
so, well, you know, eat the chili and then the toilet paper. Take the toilet paper. Bad news bears.
If you eat chili, you're going to need the toilet paper.
Just use the shower at that point. I mean, each one of these stories, like I said, is taking aspects of the pandemic that we've all experienced up to this point, and I almost want to say it's almost kind of blowing it out of proportion in a humorous way.
Yeah. Okay.
But that being said, they were all fun reads. My one thing was the art styles kept flipping back and forth, and with it being all black and white, I mean, I enjoy comics that are in black and white. I think it takes a lot of talent to really make it good. And some of the artwork on some of the stories were great. Others they need a little work. We'll put it that way.
Okay. All right.
So, the Are You Still Watching? That story I thought was great.
Okay, cool. Was that your favorite one?
Between that and Paper House, those two were my favorites. So, and then Flight 616 was the next one that I enjoyed the most.
Okay, interesting.
Which ones did you like? Or
hey, see how I gave you that line there? It's like we've done this before. First off, I would say that when I started reading this book, I got a very Twilight Zone, Tales of the Unexpected type of, sort of like, do not adjust your set vibe. And then kind of like you get the stories and it's like the narrator comes back at the end and stuff. I didn't, very much like you with the previous book, I kind of looked at this book and I was like, damn it, Josh. I was going to pick one of these for my Kickstarter, but no, you beat me to it. So I was like, okay. And then I started flipping through it and I was I got the humor in it, because there is humor all the way through this, which is a good thing. But then sitting back and kind of just reflecting a little bit, the amount of spot on observational points that are in this book, it's an absolute credit to let me get his name, Mario Candelara, who's the writer in all the books, and all the stories. I mean, the Paper House story. It's you heard people about Horde and Toilet Roll and stuff. Flight 616. You can't go anywhere, and if you cough once just to clear your throat, you are in serious. You
got to the point where you would rip a fart to cover your cough.
I would never do that. Stride was so bittersweet, it was unbelievable. And Are You Still Watching? Who hasn't, during their lockdown, been told by Netflix or whatever that are you still watching Fast and Loud? Yes, I am still watching Fast and Loud. Thank you. I'm going for the burn. I'm watching all the seasons. I think the level of observational content shows that people have these shared experiences, and you're not going through it alone. You're really not. And it doesn't matter if it's the Are You Still Watching stuff and you're getting sick of box sets, or you're getting freaked out because you run out of toilet roll or hand sanitizer or whatever it is. We're all in this. And I suppose one of the positives out of this whole pandemic thing is that people are nicer to each other somehow. I don't know how that's happened, but to answer your question, for me, Flight 616 is probably my favorite because that whole cough thing. And then I liked Are You Still Watching? Then I liked Stride, and then Paper House. So a Stride, I didn't like it at first. It took me a couple of goes at it to sit on it and reflect. And I think that's what you got to do with some of this. Some of the dark humor in this book is obvious, and you'll get it straight away. Others are going to percolate a little bit. And you're right about the art styles. I mean, the art style in Stride is not particularly fantastic. Happy Hour's more comic book, like cartoon strip.
Yeah.
Paper House, it's decent. Flight 616, Randy Heilman's does a great job. It looks like I've been on that airplane. I know what that airplane looks like. Should be on that airplane last week, go to Mexico, but that's another story. But no, I thought it was a really well observed book about something that not just one person is suffering from. So you get to see all the different aspects. So yeah. I tip my hat. There you go.
Although I will note on the last page, when they wrap up Tales from the Pandemic, did you notice the spaceship staring at planet Earth?
Oh yeah, I get it.
I would love to see a book continuing this, but from the aliens' perspective on what they see us doing.
Do you know what I saw on Twitter not so long ago? I think we're all going through stuff, regardless of where you are. Whether you're in the UK and you've got the pandemic and Brexit, whether you're in California, you've got the pandemic and you've got the fires. If you're in Australia, you've got the fires and the pandemic. No matter where you are in the world, there's all this other stuff going on. And someone wrote on Twitter, I wish I could remember his name or her name, and I don't. I'm sorry. So if this is you and you're listening, I'm not taking credit for it. I just want to say it was a well put tweet. It's like, can this year end soon? I'm sick of being part of history. That's how it's going to be, man.
Yeah.
So I was
wow.
Like, yeah. I'd like to be able to know that everything's going to work out.
And I have no doubt that it will.
Yeah.
So, but speaking of history, we've got our next book, who is a very iconic character, not only in comics, but in pop culture. Vampirella, Trial of the Soul. Like that? I like that one.
Well done.
All right, so moving on to Vampirella, written by Bill Willingham, artist by, oh, good Lord.
Just
I don't.
Caparo.
Thank you. Thank you for for helping out. Colors by Andrew Dahlhaus. Letters by Carlos M. Mangual. And then the cover art by Bart Sears. Johnny, this is your pick. I know you were really excited for this book, so I'm going to sit back. This is put out by Dynamite, which has always been putting out fantastic books. Take it away.
So, long story short, Forbidden Planet near me is my local comic book shop. Go further afield, you get this book shop called The Darl Knight. And the reason it's called that is because it's in a town called Darlington, so it's like a bit of a wordplay. They opened up before Forbidden through the pandemic. I wasn't going to move my order from Forbidden because I don't want to see one business suffer. But this Darl Knight shop is so good that I've started buying new stuff from them as well as Forbidden. And one of the books I picked up was this. I am a Vampirella fan, so it kind of on a bit of a biased trip with me. That said, I'm not that kind of red tinted, rose tinted glasses type of fan who thinks everything's fantastic. You know, because that Paul Cornell's run from a couple of years back, whew, man, that wasn't good at all. But this is kind of back to basics. A sexy vampire, Vampirella, ends up getting a new fella who, after they get to know each other, lets out that he's part of a cult who's investigating her to see if she's got a soul. Because vampires don't have souls, you know, unless you're like Angel or Spike, but that's a whole different ballgame. If she's got a soul, great, everything's hunky-dory, you can go about your bat-winging self, doing whatever it is you're doing in your little red swimsuit. If you haven't got a soul, that's it, you're going to get staked, medium rare. It's a setup book, it's a one-shot, so this is kind of setting the scene for the next bunch of adventures for Vampy, which is great. I like it when Vampy actually has a genuine goal in place. I don't like it when it's like just a issue after issue and it's like Monsters of the Week kind of stuff. It doesn't do anything for me. I like it to have some sort of purpose. Billy Willingham's been around the industry for absolute years. I can't tell you the books he's worked on because I'm not allowed to talk about Big Two, but for indie books he's been on Fables. Everyone loves Fables, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never read it. But this is it's a barnstorm. This is a barnstorm. You want to see a book that rocks from the writing to the speech, the way that Pastor, the gentleman who is after Vampy's soul or non-soul, he has this kind of way of speaking that just screams cult.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is talking like dead hip and dead trendy. He's very much by the book, as it were, the holy book. And I've got to say, you know, Vampy has never looked better. In this book, she's sexy, she's sassy, she's feisty. She looks great. There's no apologies whatsoever about her being in a swimsuit rather than whichever variant that people think that's politically correct, which I absolutely love. She is who she is. She's been around since the 70s. The costume is fine. Stop messing. Yes, she's an adult. Yes, she likes sex. That's also fine. Get over it.
Yeah.
It's totally unapologetic. For me, this book's out now. It came out on the Wednesday just gone. It is probably the best book that I picked up that week. It is, honestly, cannot tell you how much I rave about this book. There's only one panel, and it's on page 12, where she flies away, and there's something going on with her abdomen, and it's kind of like, what's on? It looks a bit wonky. That's the only bit of her that I didn't like. Sometimes the male character looks a bit wooden, but, you know, hey-ho. Colours are great. Honestly, if you want to get into Vampirella, this is where you start.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. As because I remember when we were talking before the show, and you're like, "This is the book I want to review."
Mhm.
First of all, I'm not going to say no to Vampy. No, 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 no. And then reading the book, I was like, "Oh my hell!" And it served as a reminder on why I love indie so much. Like you said, writing was spot on. The art was spot on. I did notice the whole abdomen quirk. We'll put it that. But that was one little part. Letters were spot on. Colors, spot on. Everything was from start to finish an awesome read, an awesome experience. And I completely agree that if you're wanting to get into reading Vampirella, this is the book to do it. And I'm excited to see what they do with this story, because even at the end it said it was what the end maybe. Yeah. And it was just so much fun. At no point did I feel that there was any sort of lull in the story, because I mean you and I have read a plethora of books where even if there's a lull, it's I feel like we get books where the lull is the complete issue.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I think there's, when some of the bigger publishers go for their stories, they're thinking trade paperback. So how soon can I get this story out? How soon can I turn it into a trade paperback? Because that's when the masses will buy it, because it's in a bookstore, not a comic book store.
Yeah. And the pacing on this was perfect. Absolutely perfect. So well done. Absolutely loved it. I mean, we could go on and on about how much we love the book, but I don't think we need to at this point.
No.
I would just say is just go pick up the book.
Yeah, it's not an expensive book.
No.
It's good solid page count, great art, great story.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, Dynamite's always putting out fantastic stuff anyway.
Dynamite, the quality of their books are absolutely up there. They for me, I'd like to see a little bit more diversification. And what I mean by that, before anyone gets on my case, is with Dynamite, it's either Vampy or Sonya.
Yeah.
The time, right? Now, it wasn't that long ago their James Bond series was fantastic. They had the Project Superpowers, which was great. This old school superhero stuff. But I don't know if it's just the year that we're in, and they kind of got to go with what goes well.
Yeah.
But you get other companies like Boom and IDW who are equally as known as franchise companies. The Transformers, they've got Trek, they've got whatever. Yeah, the IDW are putting out some fantastic, truly independent stuff.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish to myself, I wish Dynamite could take that risk a bit more, just because of the quality of the book they put out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. And maybe it really is a combination of what's going on. But because that is really affecting a lot across the board.
Yeah.
So who knows?
And if you've got restricted product, then you know what? If it works for a certain company in their affiliation with a certain flying rodent that kicks around at night, and the amount of books they put out featuring said rodent, then you're not really going to hold Dynamite to fault for doing exactly the same with Vampy and Red Sonja.
Yeah. So, but where we've read plenty of books with said rodent, this book, I honestly was better than some of those books.
Totally agree. Absolutely, totally agree.
So,
in fact, if you're really into Vampy, you should be able to get these pretty still. There's a Vampy Red Sonja team up book. It's on issue 10. Issue 10 comes out, I think, next week. And and I swear to God, it is written by Geordie Belair, the colorist.
Oh,
that book is absolutely such a good, fun book. So if you like your vampy, go check that book out as well.
I dig it. Well, for right now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to have a quick little ad. So coming October 24th, Comic Crusaders presents VirtualCon II. So sit back, relax, check out the ad for that, and we'll be right back. You know, you always hear those stories of people going through cancer, and you think, that's never going to happen to me. I can remember that night when I got that call. It's about as vivid as my son being born. That's when I'm told, your mom has leukemia. And I just drop. Didn't know what to think or feel. I just felt numb and dropped. Comic Crusaders presents VirtualCon II. Only on ComicCrusaders.com. Welcome back to Flipside Focus. Hope you guys enjoyed that and are looking forward to VirtualCon 2. I know we are.
I have set my alarm clock because, man, that 12 a.m. EST, man, that's 5 a.m. my time.
It's going to be a long night.
I might just get up early.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, this is the segment we love the most, so we're going to kickstart this. If you caught my drift. We're going to jump into the Kickstarter campaign. Before we talk about the Kickstarters, I wanted to talk about some Kickstarter-related news. Lately, we've noticed an uptick, if you will, of big names using Kickstarter. Scott Snyder, Keanu Reeves, for comics. And I was kind of curious, Johnny, what your thoughts were about the effectiveness of this. Does it either help or damage the Kickstarter platform?
That's a really good question. I didn't think of it from that point of view. I think, and I mean, we've interviewed Scott Snyder, and regardless of what you think of his writing, I don't think there's a nicer guy in comic books. He's such a genuine guy. Okay, that said, and I also have interviewed Todd Mcfarlane, who's done his Kickstarters for some of his figures as well.
Yeah.
Again, such a savvy, clever business bloke. For me, Kickstarter should be about the people who need that help to get their book out there. All right. So the Scott Snyder book, he's got Tony S. Daniel as his artist, and it's about a story about a world that's encased in darkness, and there's horrors in the night, and it pretty much sounds like Dark Metals, which is fine. Got to go with what you got. I don't mind that. But you cannot tell me that with the power that Scott Snyder has as a creator, not just his more mainstream stuff, you talk about American Vampire, that he cannot get a deal with an indie company to have full creative control of his comic book. That he has to go to Kickstarter to do that. Having Scott Snyder, Tony Daniel, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Keanu Reeves, to some extent Dynamite, all on Kickstarter, there's only so much you can back. There's only so many books out there. Our wallets can only take so much. And if you're wanting to help a guy or a girl or a non-binary person break into the field because that's what they want to do and the story they want to tell you is kind of interesting, but then you see that big name in lights, Scott Snyder. You're going to go there. And you're going to forget about Joe blogs or Joanne blogs or just blogs. who was
Yeah.
trying to get their book out there. I think, and it's a free world, so you can do what you like, but I think it makes it harder for the true independent, the true small publisher to get their book out there.
Yeah.
For me personally, I mean, Scott Snyder should be able to get a book deal from someone.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
It's a combination of both. I agree that it'll take the focus away from those other books, specifically the ones that we would pick and review on here.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side of that coin, it may also bring attention to people who may not know about Kickstarter and bring them to it. And you and I both know, once you start looking through Kickstarter and you just start scrolling through like the comics, you're going to find something.
Okay. Well, may I counter your statement, sir?
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Tough shit. All right. Okay. So we like comics. You and I, we both like comics. Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, if we didn't, this would be very awkward right now.
Yeah. Comics. Well, comics.
What are those?
We like indie books. We like some Marvel books. We like some DC books. All right. That's us. That's you and me, right?
Yeah.
Joe Blogs, when they go into a comic book shop, they're not looking for an indie book. They're looking for whatever movie was on the Cineplex the last time they went to the cinema, right?
Okay.
By having big names on Kickstarter, you run the same risk. Fair enough, you've got the bloke in the store or the person in the store, but that person, they're going to gravitate towards Avengers or Batman. And let's be honest, there's a slew of Batman stuff out there. All right.
Really? I had no idea.
No. Or Spider-Man or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And because there's only so much money in the world, that's where it goes. The amount of people I speak to in my local comic shops, I'll say things like, "Oh, have you read these Savage Shores?" I'm like, no, what's that? I was like, well, it's by Ram V. Who's Ram V? The current Catwoman writer. Oh yeah, I read Catwoman.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.